Sales coaching is not telling someone what to do. The skills that it takes to be an individual performer are not the skills that it takes to lead and grow and develop and coach a sales team. If you don't use it, your competitors are, and they're going to have an advantage over you. Hi, I'm Mike Belin from Naker Consulting, and we do hard things.
Welcome everybody back to the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Lullo. I am super excited to be kicking off this next episode. We have a really awesome guest speaker. I've actually known this individual for many, many years. Asked him to come on the show and he said yes. And the reason why is because he is seasoned at what he does and he knows this business inside and out when it comes to leadership, development, sales, and he's just a leader's leader. Welcome, Mike Belin. Mike, how are you, man?
Great, thanks. Appreciate you having me on. And yeah, every once in a while I add up the years and think about, how long it's been since I first met you and what path life has taken us over the last almost 10, 12 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have a massive, this is your bio. It's pretty impressive. 25 years, diverse experience across various industries. You really mastered the art of fueling business through revenue, through expert coaching, through sales leadership. You received multiple awards for your achievement in sales management, team performance, and really you've developed and shown a proven track record for coaching sales professionals. You help them reach their full potential. I've seen and witnessed you do this firsthand. And, you've been operating as really a fractional VP of sales, runner of sales management, sales operations. Where tell me your story. Like, how did you get into it? I'd love to hear your origin story because you have a vast background, but can you just share how it kind of began and where this came from and how you got into this role? I mean, we don't go to school for sales, right? There's no sales degree. So how did you get into this?
No, and an expression that I've used many times before is that salespeople aren't born, they're trained. But I was well trained way back in the day. That I came up through the print media days, back in the days of selling yellow page ads, and that industry went through a pretty seismic evolution going from print to digital. And during that time, I was inside sales, outside sales, a stint in sales training, managing a sales team. And then I realized that over that time, I kind of developed a passion for coaching and helping salespeople reach their full potential and developing their skill sets. And I realized that there was a great opportunity when I met Jason Pearl, the founder of Naker Consulting, our sales consulting agency. When I met him several years ago, it was a great opportunity for me to join what Jason was doing and continue to build that team and take that to clients that really, in many cases, don't have that internally.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm noticing in the industry right now, to your last sentence, a lot of companies, clients don't have things baked out when it comes to sales training, sales leadership. Why do you think that's the case? You would think in a new business, sales is everything, right? You're trying to gain revenue, you're bootstrap. If you're trying to, obviously, you have a VC backed company, you need to show revenue, you need to show sales. But I feel like it's just lacking for a lot of new founders. Why do you think that is?
So there's a couple things in there. The one challenge that we see very often is the CEO-led sales. And very quickly, I'll tell that story of the CEO-led sales, that the CEO had a good idea, founded the company, built it on a niche market, something that they could do to solve a problem in the market. And as they continued to grow that company, that they realized when they were the company's only and best salesperson, that it became difficult to pass that along and sustain that growth. So it's usually, it didn't happen because there was never really a necessity for it. So in many cases, we're brought in when that CEO needs to make that transition. In some of the well-established companies, sometimes it's a budget concern that they just don't have the internal team anymore. And when things get tight, when the market is squeezed a little bit, and when there isn't quite the revenue that you expected to have, things, unfortunately, like sales training gets cut, ends up on the cutting room floor of the budget, so to speak.
Right. I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, you've implemented a lot of different strategies, and you see, obviously, you see the situation at hand. You're diagnosing the problem. You're realizing there is a training need. What do you start with? How do you start to determine and uncover what the problem is before you start building those strategies, which we'll get into?
So I am very much built like I was trained as a salesperson, that going in with a solution without truly identifying the problem is sales malpractice. There's also such a thing as leadership malpractice. And as a consulting agency, it is very difficult to go in to an engagement, into a situation, without truly diagnosing what their challenges are. Sometimes it's technology. Sometimes it's a CRM. I worked with a client that they were managing their entire sales pipeline off an Excel spreadsheet. And they were a company that was approaching many $1 million in annual revenue and still working off a spreadsheet. So for that client, we needed to go in and build out an occurrence of a CRM. In other cases, it is sales and marketing alignment. Some cases, it's personnel. And one of the things that we will do is go in and do a go to market strategy and personnel assessment to assess who's on the team. Do you have the right seats in place? Do you have the right leadership in place? And it could be a number of factors. But the point of all that is that we can't go in and deliver a solution and help to fix a problem without identifying and having the leadership team agree that that's the problem that needs to be solved.
Right. Understood. Okay. So now you have the problem, you have the assessment. By the way, how long does an assessment usually take?
So we can usually, within about a week or two, identify what core issues are. And what we do at Naker Consulting is we have our clients come through a growth assessment. It's a multifaceted assessment that looks at several areas of their business. It's kind of like going to the doctor, knowing that you have a problem. This is the first stages of those x-rays, scans, blood work, so that we can get a true baseline of where this client is at the time. And usually within a couple weeks, we can identify what the challenges are. So we'll often come in a project base and kind of get that assessment going and understanding what the key issues are. And then we'll look to build a long-term strategy, because there is no such thing as waving a magic wand. There isn't something that if a client is looking to rebuild, sometimes gut, remodel, rebuild their entire sales operations, that's not something that happens overnight.
So I love good stories. And I know obviously your clients, are protected. So you don't want to get into specifics, but I guess give me a high level, maybe a highlight of a situation or strategy that you dealt with where you implemented some significant, revenue growth for a client. How did you attack it? What was the result, and what did you do to make that happen?
In one situation in particular, the leadership had changed over in this organization. They recently took on a new CEO, promoted somebody from a performing sales role into the VP of sales role, and had a couple of salespeople that were on their way out of the organization, both through their own accord and both through a lack of performance. And we needed to really start from scratch. So, in that case, we needed to understand what the skill set was of this performing rep. And as we know, that the skills that it takes to be an individual performer are not the skills that it takes to lead and grow and develop and coach a sales team. So it was really a situation where we needed to almost start from scratch. And it was a sizable organization. Part of that also included helping them identify and hire, interview, and then bring on a new sales team and build them up from the bottom, starting to grow their team again. And what we saw after that first several months of involvement there, that client has seen 30% year over year over year growth for the last 3 years.
That's incredible. Awesome. That's awesome. So there's a balance, right? We're running a big team here in sales, and I look at sales as making, data driven decisions. It's like Moneyball, right? Brad Pitt's movie Moneyball. You look at the numbers, you use the numbers as your advantage to make those decisions. But there's also that human element, right? And I think that movie was great because you got the old school guys saying, hey, you got to trust your gut to make sure you find the best baseball players. And then you got obviously Jonah Hill saying, hey, we got to look at all the numbers and do the statistics. But I think in coaching and sales leadership and in your world, it's a mixture of both, right? Using data to help make those decisions and drive the strategy and the growth, but also that human element because it's a people business. AI hasn't replaced us yet. So how do you balance the data-driven focus as well as the human element in your approach?
Yeah, so I always love a good Moneyball reference in there, and I think that that's a perfect corollary between growing a business and what they did back with the Oakland A's in taking that data, taking that analytics, and identifying what is it on paper in a CRM system that we are looking to achieve. What are those key metrics? What are the behaviors, the actions that we want to see? How is that built out in a pipeline? That's all driven by data captured in a CRM, captured in a place where full transparency, everyone sees it. But does not happen on paper or in a CRM. It is the behaviors of that salesperson and how that salesperson is identified and onboarded and trained and coached and incentivized. And there are multiple factors in there, ranging all the way from how you bring that person on to how they're paid, how they're compensated to do what you need them to do in each step of the way, how they're coached, how goals are built, how objectives are communicated, and what that looks like holistically. So it really is that Moneyball style balance of what is it that we're looking to achieve from metrics and KPIs, and how do you coach the person?
Love it. Love it. So you mentioned earlier sales and marketing alignment. And, in our world, the SDR space, we are the go between between sales throwing, arrows over the fence to marketing and marketing throwing arrows over the fence to sales, right? What's the old adage? I can't close any of your leads marketing and marketing's like, you're getting all the good leads. You can't close anything sales, right? So it's this back and forth between, I guess, essentially prospecting leads, driving new top of funnel initiatives. How do you come in and be that saving grace, really that, let's call it marriage counselor between the sales and marketing to make them work, and be synergistic?
Yeah, that's a great metaphor. In fact, I've used that marriage counselor metaphor before, in that usually what happens is that you have in an organization two departments, in many cases, two people, one leading the sales, one leading the marketing, and both of them say that they want to achieve the same goals together. But it does come out to be that men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and they're not speaking each other's love language. And the love language is really the love of the customer. How are we communicating to our customers, to our ideal customer profiles, what their pain points are, how we solve that, selling the problem, selling the solution, nurturing them along in there, and making sure the best metaphor in this is that both sides of the boat are rowing in unison. That if someone doesn't, and someone feels like they're rowing a little too fast or a little too slow, the boat ends up spinning in circles. When organizations, like sizable ones especially, that the boat ends up spinning in circles and they're not really communicating what they want and how the customer is at the fulcrum of this conversation, and making sure that sales and marketing balance on both sides of this. So all the metaphors aside, coming in with a background, and this is where having a unique background in digital and multimedia marketing is that I know enough about marketing to know what I'm looking for and how that's impacting the top of the funnel and really how it flows down to sales. So why we work so well with outside marketing agencies and internal marketing teams is because they handle marketing. I'm working with our client on the sales and making sure that sales and marketing are speaking that same language, really the language of how our products, our services, our solutions solve the problem that the customer needs.
Love that. Okay. Well, that's amazing. Let's switch gears here because we mentioned AI briefly. There's a lot of trends right now that are coming up. There always is trends, right, in the sales industry. What do you think, trending wise, are people or sales professionals specifically? What do you think they should be aware of right now? And really, how do you feel? Is technology and AI something that you're excited about, scared about? How are you using it to um, bring your projects together?
So I'll use as an example ChatGPT. That had conversations about this, that AI is there. And I've heard the expression, and my apologies for the person that said this to me, that I'm stealing this from, but AI will never replace a human being. A human being that masters AI will replace a human being that hasn't. So, using those tools, and for example, ChatGPT, using it as a research tool, a salesperson, for example, to say, hey, I'm going in to meet with this client. I'm going to make a pitch to them. I need to understand who they are. Can I run them through an AI platform, whether that's Chat GPT, whether that's Copilot, whether that's Gemini, to say what is out there readily available to me and use this to do some of that preliminary research, who the company is, who the leadership team is, what things are happening in their industry, who are their top five competitors, what competitive advantage does this customer have, does this client have that I should be aware of? So you're going into this conversation as a salesperson being as educated as you can. Things that would have taken days, weeks of research are things that you can do with the right prompts in sometimes 10 or 15 minutes in helping to educate yourself. That's one example, Gabe, but that's something that I've helped salespeople to say, hey, this is readily available. If you don't use it, your competitors are, and they're going to have an advantage over you.
Right. Yeah, I love that quote, by the way, and I'm fully on board. You know me, but to the audience, I feel the exact same way. You need a more equipped salesperson, and if AI can equip you more effectively, that combination will absolutely outweigh and replace someone who stays in their lane. And so I totally agree. So let me ask you this: looking ahead, then, what do you think in regards to revenue optimization is really a primary challenge that professionals in sales are going to be experiencing or will be experiencing in revenue ops?
So I think what we've seen over the course of the last year, maybe two, and I think that will continue into 2025, businesses are challenged. There are a number of economic factors that have caused certain factors to happen, things to happen in the industry, that some companies are exceeding revenue goals, some are challenging, some have plateaued. And I truly believe stripping down all the AI, all the factors, is stay the course. Keep doing the things that you're doing that will lead to success. Small, sizable wins. And back to that Moneyball reference, is sometimes a walk is as good as a hit. Sometimes just get yourself on base. Get to the point where you are identifying who your customer are, you're making the right case, you're presenting the solution that you have. So, in times where things are a bit challenging, stick to the basics of who you are and what you do.
I love it. Awesome. So I guess you kind of flirted with it a little bit of like what to do, but how really should someone tackle these upcoming challenges? So let's say I'm a VP of sales. I'm struggling with my team to hit quota. I'm hitting what I think right now 62% of sales teams on average are hitting quota right now in 2024. Used to be higher. It's lower. What would you say that I can do as an individual, not the company, maybe not even the team, just me as an individual? Like what should I be doing to make and try to turn this around? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so if you are a senior leadership or a VP of sales or someone that is in charge of the revenue and sales operations for your organization is number one, take a good look in the mirror. Are you doing the things? Are you putting your team in a position to succeed? That also means hiring, training, onboarding, coaching, developing the right salespeople. And in many cases, when organizations are desperate for sales talent, they take a good enough is good enough approach. And sometimes that does not work. That doesn't work with the organization. Building in a system of sales coaching, and sales coaching is not telling someone what to do. Okay, here you go. Here's your comp plan. Here are your goals. Here's your strategy. Good luck. Go get them. That may mean rolling up your sleeves, being out on sales calls, whether that's internal or external, inside sales, outside sales, taking that shoulder to shoulder, taking that four-legged approach with your sales team so that you truly understand what's happening in the market, hearing it directly from your customers, and then collaborating together with your internal team and your sales team to build out a strategy that works.
Absolutely. Love it. Okay, so partnerships is also trending right now, right? A lot of companies are hiring partnership managers. They're signing up with software like Referral Rock or Partner Stack. They're building a network on LinkedIn. There's a huge wave of content creation, in fractional work, consulting work, as well as within company sales leadership work being happening right now in the content space. But it looks like it's all being driven to an end goal of building relationships and creating referral partnerships. How do you see that operating? Because usually it's all about marketing to create inbound, a sales development to create outbound. But there's this new, I would just say, channel that is really brewing heavily. It is for us too, and that's partnerships. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that partnerships really come down to human relationships. Is in order to have different organizations work on a partnership level together, there has to be a symbiotic, mutually beneficial relationship to do that. And I think we've all had situations where, we've sent referrals over to those that we know, and sometimes it's not really reciprocated. And it makes for a bit of a challenging relationship to say, like, hey, I'm scratching your back. I'm sending some leads your way. I'm helping you to achieve what you want, and what is successfully for your organization. But I need to have that in return too. We need to be able to work together. So I believe the best partnerships are the ones where it is mutually beneficial, symbiotic, two different organizations or three different organizations or five working together to tackle a global problem in the industry and say, hey, I'll take this from my end, you take this from your end. And using the football mentality, I don't care who scores the touchdown. If we take that approach, as long as our team wins, as long as our team scores, it doesn't matter if it's you or him or her or me, as long as we can focus on winning together. And that's where the best partnerships come about.
Love it. So my approach, I mean, I'm running an 8-figure business right now. Henry Shook, CEO of Zoom Info, is running a 10-figure business right now. But we're both spending about 20 to 25% on content creation a week, right? So I'm calling it, CEO-led content or CEO-led marketing, if you will. Making videos, doing podcasts, having a marketing team, videographer around you, producing video, but kind of like mini Gary Vaynerchuk's. How important is that in the sales space, whether it's the CRO, the VP of sales? I'm seeing SDRs right now getting 70, 80, 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, a platform that I would admittedly say I almost like 10x everything you can do on LinkedIn than you can see on TikTok and Instagram. But we're seeing SDRs getting tens of thousands of followers now. Obviously, VPs of sales, VPs of revenue, and even CEOs. So, what's your approach in content creation, and how has that shaped your thought in training or leading sales teams?
So, a couple ways to look at this. On a personal level, I think that content creation should be done on a very personal level. Speak to what you know, speak to who you know, tell true stories of things that are happening in the business world, in the areas that you service, the problems that you solve, the case studies, the user examples of things that you deal with on a day to day basis. And tell it in a human way possible to say, hey, here's what I see. Here's what I'm hearing. Here are experiences that I have, that my customers have, things that I see, again, on a day to day basis. Speak to what you know. From a brand strategy, that a company has a brand, but each of the people in that organization have their own personal brand. So you can fly the flag of your company, but also do it in a way where you're telling it your company's story from your perspective. And I think that taking, as I mentioned before, taking that human to human approach is, instead of trying to reach thousands of people, tell the story as if you're having a one-on-one conversation with one person. And that one person may be 10, it may be 15 that hear that, but speak to it in a one-on-one personalized style.
I love that. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do you're posting 7 times a week and you have a team posting 20 more on top of that? Like, how do you guys have something to say all the time, right? There's writer's block, or CEOs are saying, I just don't have the time for that. I don't know what to say. Like, and my response is, well, we just look at it as, the kitchen table, right? It's our public diary. We just talk about what we did last month.
Mm-hmm.
What's working, what's not working, what challenges, what successes, and using that as our foundation of what to talk about. And I think your advice is spot on. Um, and I guess this is my final question for you. Like, do you think that leadership and sales should have a content strategy, or do you think that should live with marketing? Like, do you think the VPs of sales, the AEs, the SDRs, do you think they should be creating content and creating their own personal brand as a sales strategy? Or do you think, hey, let marketing do all that and I'll just focus on doing my calls and closing my deals?
So I'll echo what I said a few minutes ago, that the simple answer is yes, that everyone who is in a position to connect with and touch customers should be mass communicating that same message, but not telling it in a way where this is our company culture, this is our company mission statement, this is our company's story and company's history. And sure, all those things are interwoven into content. But as we talked about earlier, that sales and marketing, that everyone has their individual perspective. Speak to what you know, but it's everyone's responsibility to make sure that customers come on board. Leadership and sales and marketing and operations and customer success, customer experience, everyone who touches customers should be telling the story, but their version of the story, their perspective on how their story resonates with, not globally, but specifically the people that you talk to on a day to day basis. Tell them how you see it. Tell them how you're experiencing sales and revenue and story and problem solving, but tell it from a personalized standpoint. So the simple answer is yes, everyone should be doing that together.
Love it. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about you. Let's plug your business here. We have a vast audience of sales professionals. Who is your ideal client? How do they get a hold of you, and what can you provide them? What type of person listening to this who may be saying, you know what, I need some help here, and Mike sounds like the guy to do it. What does that company or person look like, and how would they be able to get a hold of you?
So over the last several years, we've worked with a number of clients that range from startup to companies approaching $100 million in sales. What is true in that, across that broad spectrum, is that one, every business is unique. Every business has a story to tell. Every business has an opportunity to grow and develop and build out a sustainable model for how their business will grow, not only going into the end of 2024, into 2025 and beyond. If you want to have a conversation, if you think that, hey, we might need some help, but I'm not exactly sure what that help is, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Visit us at nakerconsulting.com. We will start that conversation and at least get you in the right mindset and start you on your path. And we'll let you know how we can best help.
Love it. Thank you so much, Mike. You are the man. I appreciate your time and spending all this, sharing all this amazing wisdom with us. Now I got to go watch Moneyball again. I feel like it's overdue. It's such a good movie. But thank you so much for your time, Mike, and we appreciate you.
Thanks, Gabe. Thanks for having me.